Good evening, everyone. Hello, friends. Hello, Theater UCF family. It is so heartbreaking yet wonderful to see everyone here tonight. My name is Amanda Wanson Morgan. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a proud graduate of the UCF MFA Acting class of 2009. Mark and I had a special relationship, having collaborated on multiple projects as directors, and he supervised some of my first teaching assignments while I was at UCF, leading to over a decade of mentorship. I'm sure many of you have had long and very meaningful moments and relationships with Mark, and that's why we're all here tonight. I was honored to be asked by UCF, Theater UCF leadership this weekend to, for a lack of a better term, host tonight's event. And I stared at my phone for a little while until after that request came, but Mark was quoted in a recent interview saying that he thought the world was still too serious and he had no more interest in that. So I figured he would sock me on the side of the arm and say, just give it a try. So here we are this evening. So I'm just going to go over kind of what we're going to do tonight in terms of the agenda of the event. We have a handful of individuals who will be speaking at the beginning tonight, some photos and videos of Mark's brilliance to share with you so we can reminisce together across the miles, and of course, significant time for you all to be able to speak to the group about your love and memories of the Mark Brotherton. When you joined the Zoom tonight, we were playing a playlist of selections from shows that Mark either directed or acted in at UCF. He worked on over 100 shows during the time that he worked there. We will open up tonight's activities with a presentation compiled by our very own dear friend, Sam Waters. Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for working on this. We love you. And the wonderful Stephen Risco, who is working diligently behind the scenes to make everything work tonight on the Zoom. So we appreciate everyone's patience with technology as we navigate that. So thank you, Stephen and Sam up front, for getting all of this together. As a forewarning, we are going to aim for a stop of our group time together at 9:30, but there will be an opportunity for everyone to jump into breakout rooms. That'll be open until 10:30, and we have some mini groups planned that you can hop around and hop about, but we'll explain how that's all going to work a little later. We'll talk about that process toward the end of our time of sharing. We know that so many of us long to be sitting at Applebee's or Bar Louie so we can laugh and cry and tell stories into the wee hours of the morning. We encourage you to use the chat. I already see it happening, and as well as the direct chat features to connect with each other to keep it going, to meet up at your local Applebee's after this, or your local Bar Louie, or your local back porch or front lawn to arrange your follow-ups, because I'm sure there will be many. If you wish to share a story tonight with the group, please feel free to send a direct message via the chat feature to Stephen Risco, who will keep a list, and we will try to get as many folks as possible. More on this after our planned tributes. So we're going to share this video, but I encourage you to put on your baseball hat. I pulled out a Coors Light, meaning I went to the store and bought them because I don't drink them anymore. Because when I do, all I want to do is sit at Applebee's and listen to Mark tell me about Scansion or the correct version recording of Cabaret. So let's enjoy. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Sam. Thank you for working on that. Cheers. First up, we're going to hear a couple remarks from the director of the School of Performing Arts, Michael Weinstein.
Hi, everybody. On behalf of SPA, I want to thank you all for being here. We didn't know if we'd get to our 300, but I think we turned away about 50 people. So that's how loved Mark was. Thank you, Amanda, very much for taking the lead tonight. Mark would have loved that so many of you gathered here to honor him. 2 weeks ago, I called Mark to see how he was. He insisted he was okay to teach, even though he couldn't get out of bed. To the very end, Mark was committed before everything else to serving his students. He was ready to teach flat on his back rather than let down his students. I've only known Mark for 4 years, and he was very humble. He never talked about his success. He always measured his success by the success of his students. When I told him how much I enjoyed Gentleman's Guide, for example, his response was, "Weren't the kids great?" Our conversations were always him sharing a story about how a student did well in class or was great in the show. He just lit up when a student did well. He loved to teach. I only saw him in 2 performances. One was Titanic, and the other was in the summer theater show where he played the lecherous Hollywood agent. I'll never forget it. He was absolutely hysterical and charming. He was playing this disdainful, awful character, and I couldn't help but loving him. He just had this endearing quality about him. He was a pure, good soul, and I feel very lucky to have known him, and I'm very, very happy everybody's here, and I look forward to the tribute. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Michael. Up next is none other than the artistic director of the Theater UCF season and Mark's colleague and friend of 21 years, Julia Listengarten.
Hi, everyone. It's truly amazing and frankly uplifting to see so many current and former students and so many colleagues and Mark's friends and family. Mark would be overjoyed to know how many people gathered tonight to honor his memory and celebrate his life. It's not easy for me to speak. I've worked with Mark for 21 and a half years. It's a lifetime. I remember when I came to interview many years ago, and I remember how encouraging and supportive Mark was. He really stood out among other faculty members at the time. And then when I came to join UCF, there were so wonderful moments at first when he really helped me rise to the occasion so many times. I actually remember how he was helping me putting binders together when I was going out for tenure. That was when we were actually doing physical binders to send to readers. And we were in an old building in Research Park. So sitting in the kitchen, and Mark was very, very specific about how he wanted my binders to look like. And I thought, Mark, these are my binders. And he said, no, you have to be consistent, and you have to be specific, and all of your binders should look alike. So I actually remember his voice when he was teaching me how to choose a particular color and how to cut paper. And specificity and consistency are the things that he really respected in everything he did, in his teaching, in his acting, in his directing. There were so many wonderful gifts that Mark offered to me. I remember I directed Picnic by William Inge. I don't think I knew how to direct. I had no idea. That was one of my earlier productions. And Mark came to rehearsal. I actually asked him to come to rehearsal, and he was always brutally honest. If he didn't like something or something wasn't really clear to him, he would tell me right away. And he said, Julia, I don't understand what the arc of this play is. And what if you reverse the order? What if you have the actors play the second part of the play first, and then the first part of the play second, and you'll see what actually happens and how characters change and what shifts they are that they need to discover. That was such a wonderful lesson that Mark taught me, and there were so many other lessons that he taught me in rehearsal hall, in the hallway of old building in Research Park, or a new building in PAC, or at Bar Louie, or Applebee's. In my role as the artistic director, I got to know different Mark, who was very demanding of his colleagues. He would call me sometimes at night and say, things are not working the way I want them to be working. And so we had long conversations, and things had to be fixed because that's what Mark wanted. My last exchange with Mark was just a few weeks ago. We talked about his summer directing and his fall directing, and he was creative and full of ideas and full of dreams. Mark leaves a remarkable legacy, and the memories will always stay with us, with me, his voice, his laughter, his sarcasm, his kindness, his jokes. Thank you, Mark, for your friendship, for your inspiration, and for your love.
Thank you, Julia. Now that I'm getting choked up, it reminds me that I need to remind everybody that we have a couple of representatives here from the Counseling and Psychological Services team who are available to us. They are listed as co-hosts. Their names are Hailu Sposato and Dr. Tamara Walden. They're going to be available for people to pop into breakout rooms if you need to at any point during the evening. Just need to step away, have a chat with someone, especially for our current students and recent grads, but they're open there for everybody. So I just wanted to give everybody a reminder in case you need to do that. I may need to as well. Thank you, Julia. I love you. Our next speaker is Michael Dritto, an alumni who's speaking on behalf of a group of alumni.
Thank you. Thank you guys for inviting me to speak. Right off the bat, I hope that my internet connection is strong enough and I don't freeze in the middle of this, because that would be awkward. Yeah, when I sat down to think about what I was going to say today, I just sort of pictured Mark in the back of my head saying, words, words, words. Because that's what he always said. He was always saying that those were the tools we had as actors. And yet, as a student and as a friend, I've sort of struggled to find the right words to say that have really that would articulate like the grief and the loss I've felt this week. Mark cared. Mark cared a lot. Mark cared a lot, and you would know it. If you were ever in his class and you were doing a scene and you did something terrible, you would find out that instant that it was bad. But that's just because he cared. It's the same way that he cared. You would find out if you did something wonderful in his class too. I feel like he was every student's #1 fan. Just like Michael said, the one of his many mantras was always, it's about the students. Because, Mark cared. I don't even need to mention it really. All you have to do is look at the outpouring of love that's been occurring on his Facebook page over the last week. It's just absurd how many people have have shared story after story after story of how they showed Mark caring for them. Some of the stories we all know because Mark also liked to repeat himself. But like if you think about that just means that he created this bridge over generations of alumni. And that's crazy if you think about it. A couple of years ago, I went back to UCF to take this stupid math class to finish my degree. And Mark reached out to me and offered me to live with him during that semester so that I wouldn't have to save money, so I could save money on rent. Like that's just a tiny example of how much he cared. A lot of people have been reaching out to me this week to see if I'm okay. And like, how could I not be? Because I had the privilege of having Mark impact my life. He made me a better actor. He made me a better student. And he made me a better person. It sucks that he's gone, but it was a fucking blast knowing him when he was alive. Mark, you were one of damn few. I love you, buddy. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Our next speaker is Doxy, Mark's dear colleague for many, many years. On deck will be David Knoll.
Thank you, Amanda. Hi, everyone. There may be some of you who don't know who I am, but I was the former chair artistic director. When at that time we were called UCF Conservatory Theater. And during my tenure there, I had the opportunity and the good fortune and the pleasure to hire so many of the outstanding and wonderful faculty who I now see lovingly before me. And the US students have had the good fortune to be able to study and work with. And that includes my dear friend, Mark Brotherton. But I was trying to think of what to say tonight, and I'm really, after just listening to Michael and looking at all the pictures, it's just so much going through my head and my heart. But I sort of thought that maybe you might enjoy finding out, how did I come to know Mark? And how did Mark end up being at UCF? Well, once upon a time in a kingdom far, far away. No. One day after giving a speech at a breakfast and a speech at a luncheon and speaking to potential donors all afternoon, I finally had the opportunity that I could grab a drink with some of the Theater Guild people who had been with me most of the day. And since we were already in Oviedo, we went to this little, I guess you could call it a restaurant on the side of the road that was named Toucan Willie's. And we'd been there before, and so some people really there, and particularly the owner, he knew who we were. And we had no more got in the door, and he ran up and he grabbed me and he said, "You have got to meet this new waiter that I've hired. He's an actor." After the day I had just had, the last thing that I wanted to do, particularly at Toucan Willie's, was to meet an actor. I mean, a waiter who imagined that he might be an actor. But this boss of Mark was determined that we were going to meet Mark, and he was going to talk to us. And so he arranged for him to be the person taking care of our table. So he serves us our drinks and our tuna bits. Tuna bits, by the way, were Toucan Willie's signature hors d'oeuvre for cocktails. So anyway, in an effort to be polite, I asked him, where did he get his training? I thought he would say something like Seminole or Valencia or someplace like that. But no, to my surprise and my amazement, Mark starts in that rapid fire, somewhat hard to follow, phrase only manner of speaking that he had to try to tell me something. And so after I could piece together that, wow, he has a BFA from SUNY. And then I found out he's got an MFA from Penn State. Now, I told you, we're in this little place called Toucan Willie's, and I would not expect to find someone like Mark Brotherton with those kind of credentials. So I continued to ask him questions, which he would try to answer as he's, waiting on tables, talking over his shoulder, carrying a tray, waiting on other people. And the more I talked to him and the more I questioned him, the more intrigued, obviously, you would become. When you first meet Mark, it's like, well, there's not much to look at first, right? But boy, as he begins to talk and reveal himself, and you begin to learn the code of how he speaks, there's just so much there. So anyway, he explains to me that he was on leave from his position at the University of Oklahoma to take care of his mother, who was recuperating from some serious illness. And I thought, well, why not take a chance? And I said, well, Mark, while you're taking care of your mother and she's recuperating, would you consider maybe coming to work part-time at UCF? And he graciously said, I'd love to. I thought, oh, really? And I thought, of course, any place probably, even working at UCF, would have been better than waiting on tables at Toucan Willie's. So anyway, he came. And he was brilliant from the start. Students fell in love with him immediately, and he was just super. Well, sadly, we had a similar tragedy that we're going through now happen at that time. A very brilliant young director, actor named Jim Calley tragically died in his 30s, totally unexpected. And so anyway, with this sudden position that opened up unexpectedly, I thought, well, Mark, would you consider not returning to Oklahoma and staying on here with us at UCF? Thank the good Lord, he said yes. And then that began my all too short, fascinating, sometimes frustrating, and loving relationship that I had with Mark Brotherton, my friend and colleague. As you can see, I've not really fully processed the fact that Mark's not with me, with us. I'm still in that somewhat numb, disconnected stage. I guess that's probably second after denial. And so, yes, it's a very, very sad time. for all of us who knew and loved Mark. He was such a gifted theater artist, such a wonderful, caring, and giving teacher. He was a mentor. He wasn't just a teacher. And he was a great friend. I can tell you this, we're all, and the world is a little poorer for having him passed. I can also tell you we're all the more enriched for him having been here. And so we will grieve and we will mourn. And then finally, we will have to do what Mark would want us to do. And that is to celebrate the life that was Mark Brotherton and the gifts that he shared with us. I miss him. I love him. And yes, Mike Drudo, he was one of my few. All of those people you're standing and sitting here before me, I love you so much too. You've all been so much a part of my life. Filled me with so many wonderful memories, wonderful times. I'll never forget you. I love you. So please, please, please take care, stay safe. God bless. Thanks for listening to the ramblings of an old man.
Thank you, Doc. We love you. Doc, if you can see the chat, everybody's sending you a lot of love, sir. Thank you so much. We're going to hear next from David Nell, and then after David, we're going to hear from Mark's very own sister, Donna.
Thank you, Amanda, Michael, Julia, Mike Dritto, and thank you, Doc. I'll keep it very brief. My name is David Nell, MFA class of 2006. I was really lucky to see Mark January of 2019 on a random visit that I made to Orlando, and had some extra time, decided to go over to the campus because I had never seen any of the new buildings or anything. And on my way to leave, Mark actually saw me, which it should have been the other way around. I mean, I look at the 300 plus people here and these students, why would he recognize me or my face? It should have been me, but that speaks to who Mark was. I would like to just share a few words. Mark had a lot of favorite authors. I thought I would share some words from John Steinbeck. First, from The Pastures of Heaven. After the bare requisites to living, man wants most to leave some record of himself, a proof, perhaps, that he has really existed. He leaves his proof on wood, on stone, and on the lives of other people. This deep desire exists in everyone. Life is so unreal. I think that we seriously doubt that we exist and go on about trying to prove that we do. And finally, from John Steinbeck's East of Eden, I believe that there is one story in the world and only one. Humans are caught in their lives, in their thoughts, in their hungers and ambitions, in their avarice and cruelty, in their kindness and generosity too. Caught in a net of good and evil. There is no other story. A man, after he has brushed off the dust and the chips of his life, will have left only the hard, clean question. Was I good? Have I done well? And may I add, yes, Mark, I think you were, and I believe you did.
Thank you, David. Before we spotlight Donna, I want to take a second on behalf of everyone here to thank you, Donna, for keeping us all updated on what was going on with Mark. Your posts meant a lot to a lot of us, especially throughout the last couple of days there, so that we could get him posts and messages and videos and photos, and we've all been holding you in our hearts over the past week. So we'd love to hear what you have to say, and also we want to hear about the scholarship that's possibly being set up for Mark.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate you putting this memorial service on. You know, we knew him as my brother, my husband's brother-in-law, and the kids knew him as his uncle, their uncle. I wore this hat because in reading all the comments, whoops, you know, he has a lot of hats. And I saw in a lot of comments, he was always just saying, have fun. So this is the hat I chose to wear. Let's see. You know, when he was in the hospital, he was really in a lot of pain. But the night before hospice, you know, he was lucid, and we were able to read a lot of the comments. My husband and I, we took turns. And when we were struggling to pronounce some of your last names,
he knew them all.
He knew them all.
He corrected us.
Yeah, he would correct us. But he knew every one of your names. And we were just so glad that, you know, we could share that with him. And the videos, you know, we really did not realize how much he has impacted students. We are overwhelmed. I'm sitting in his apartment, and I forget what that's called when you get those shots. What? A headshot. And then, I don't know if you can see up there, that's his graduation from high school. So what I'd like to do, I mean, he's touched so many lives that I would like to honor his memory and establish a scholarship for him. And in reading all the posts and everything, I think all his students are going to make this world a better place. You know, it's just wonderful. I know he was getting really frustrated with the way the world was going. It's like so divided. And to read all your comments, I know his students are going to make this world a better place. And I really appreciate, I thank you for loving my brother so much.
Thank you, Donna. We're going to bring Stephen Risco in for a moment to talk about the scholarship that's being set up in Mark's name, and where alumni that are interested can donate. Thank you, Donna.
Hi, everyone. If you feel moved to donate in Mark's name, I just wanted to give you some instructions on how to do so. In the chat, I'm going to share a link out to our announcement that has the information if you want to read it. But all you need to do is go to our UCF Foundation giving page. It is www.ucffoundation.org/give-now. When you get there, there's a search bar, and you can search for theater, and theater department will come up, and you can select that. And once you do that, you'll see below it, there's a spot to add a tribute, and you can select in memory of, and put Mark's name in there, and then we'll know when we receive that, we'll know that it is a tribute on Mark's behalf. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Okay, we have one more planned speaker, and then we're going to open up the floor. So I'm breathing the way Kate Ingram taught me to breathe, because I'm feeling a lot of feelings. If you would like to speak with the entire group, if you'd like to say a few words and have a couple minutes, please send Stephen, who just spoke, a private message. We're keeping a shared document so that we can see who's interested. Give them a little bit of info of who you are, faculty, alumni, what class, are you a friend from elsewhere, etc., just so we can introduce you. Before we dive into that, I'm going to hand it back over to Julia Listengarden, who's going to talk just very briefly about some ideas about some events to honor and celebrate Mark's life, maybe potentially coming up next fall.
Hi again. One of the last conversations I had with Mark was about his directing in his fall semester. And we went back and forth and back and forth, and we got a lot of suggestions from the student selection, season selection committee. We were particularly looking to do one acts. And so we talked about Pinter, we talked about Beckett, we talked about Ionesco. And then Mark said, I really would like to direct John Patrick Shanley. It's been a while, he said, since I directed Shanley a number of years ago. Mark directed Doubt. And then he said, Kate directed Savage in Limbo a while back. It might be a good time for Shanley to come back. And so we selected 3 one-acts by John Patrick Shanley that Mark was going to direct in the fall. So the idea that I'd like to share with you is that we will keep the selection in our season to honor Mark, to honor his memory. And it will be our collective tribute to Mark. So it will be collectively directed by several faculty members. So we haven't decided yet, it's still in the works. But the production will take place in November. It will open on November 12th, and it will be our tribute to Mark Brotherton. And we're planning to have an in-person celebration of Mark's life on the opening night of John Patrick Shanley's plays. So we will have more information to share, but that's what we have right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia. Okay, so we're gonna open up the floor. We have a list started already. To give you all some time to message Stephen if you're interested in speaking, I'll go first. I was told that I was asked to do this because I could quote unquote keep it together, but I make 0 promises. So I had the privilege of working alongside Mark when he recruited me to help organize and arrange music for and music direct a summer stage season in 2007 and 2008. Interestingly enough, I wasn't in Mark's classes, and so Mark became one of my mentors because he was never responsible for my grades. So we could basically tease each other and make fun of each other, and I could bite back, right? Because he couldn't fail me, which was always super fun. That summer, Mark had this great idea, and you all know Mark, when he gets a really good idea that's unique, it's like he would not back down. He had this idea that we would do these shows, but we would do this showcase between the shows, and everybody, and this was the beautiful thing, that everybody, we were gonna do it so that the people who were like in the ensemble would have a featured moment, right? And so that everybody would get a chance to shine, and that's why it was called Summer Spotlight, by the way. Because it would give everybody a chance to be spotlighted. And so we spent so many hours at Applebee's. I don't even think the years that I was at UCF at the quote unquote tech center that I had even been in his office, but to grab a play. We were always at Applebee's working on that script, and we would be there with beers and like all of the scenes. And back then I didn't have finale, so I couldn't make sheet music, so I would cut the music and he would spill a beer on it, and I would be like, Mark, that's measure 5 through 13, what are you doing? Well, he'd say, well, just cut it, we don't need it. That's transition. So we would just go back and forth, and once, and he had these ideas where he would take he took a Shakespeare speech, All the World's a Stage, and we set it to the showcase, and it turned out to be brilliant. And when he told me about it, I was very skeptical, and I let him know that. I said, I think it's going to be corny, and it wasn't corny, it was gorgeous, and he was right. Okay, he was right, and I told him he was right, and then he made me do it again the next summer, so I begrudgingly told him it was right. Anyway, I found out Mark was sick right before I went into rehearsal because I am a college professor now. And Mark, my first class as instructor of record was a stage, speech, and voice. And Mark was my supervisor, which you could imagine was rigorous and hilarious. So I found out right when I went into rehearsal, and I couldn't help but just sit in my own university's theater thinking, like, Mark, every time I talked to him, he just said, "I'm so proud of you, so proud of you." And I just had to, there were a couple moments where I was coaching a student, and all I could think of was like every day something that Mark or Kate or Earl or Steve taught me, teaching to other students. And so I just felt the tangible reach of Mark's work in what I do, like as a vessel. And I know it sounds corny, but I really felt that way. And I found out that he passed when I was on a break from rehearsal the next night too. So it was the same thing that, like, I was like, well, now you're in the room. So now you're right here. Now you're right here. And now I'm really nervous because now I feel like he's really going to correct me. I'll close with this. I always came back to Mark when I hit a rough patch, professionally and personally, because I knew that he would give me really direct and sound but loving advice. When Mark gave you a compliment, you just felt like you were the only person in the room. He really knew how to give a compliment. And he told me, when it starts to feel like work, when it's not fun anymore, then just stop doing it. And I thought that was ridiculous at the time. I was like, what, am I going to quit? I'm not a quitter, I'm a Wanza. And it took me a while to figure out what he meant was either make it fun, reinfuse the joy, or get out of that situation. Put yourself in a situation where you can marry the work and the joy. And it made me realize, as I was reading all these posts, that he did that he really saw students. So he continues to inspire me as a student. And he really continues to remind me that when it feels like work, it's our job to reinfuse the joy and recenter ourselves on why we're there and what's important. So I'm devastated, but I also, again, I feel like he's over my shoulder now here in Kennesaw. So correcting every pronunciation that he can. Thanks for hearing me out. So I'm looking at our list. We have about an hour as a big group, and then again, we're going to have breakout rooms. We're going to have breakout rooms for everybody to hop into and continue drinking and talking and crying into the night. But yes, you can start saying, I'm not a quitter, I'm a Wanza. You're welcome to steal that. My pleasure. We'll first start with, if you're ready, Daniel Pickett. And on deck, we will have Dee Quintero and Ed Marie Montes.
You'll have to forgive me for how I sound. I'm losing my voice, which is ironic because Mark was my voice and diction teacher back at the University of Oklahoma. But one of my favorite Mark stories, I was a friend of Mark. I was a student of Mark. I was privileged enough to be a co-star of Mark in a production, and we were in a show written by another faculty member called The Immigration of Adam Kurtzik, and it was nominated for Irene Ryan's. And so we got to take the show on tour, and we were going from Oklahoma to Lubbock, Texas. And we were just driving all together down to Lubbock, and we stopped at a Bonanza, which is a steakhouse. Mark, of course, being unwilling to stop teaching, made us all refer to it as Bonanza instead of Bonanza. And we were eating, and it was over, and this was one of University of Oklahoma. It was one of Mark's first kind of teaching gigs, and we were looking at him, and he went over to the ice cream machine, and it was like he had never seen one before, and he just stood there trying to figure out how to use it, and he would just kind of touch it, and then nothing would happen, and then he'd step back and he'd let a kid come by and do it. And we just, the whole cast at some point is gathered watching him from afar, staring at what to him looked like alien technology. And so for the rest of the trip, we called him Starman, after that Jeff Bridges movie, where he comes to Earth and understands nothing. And it was so funny and strange to see Mark just, he was so put together in the university setting, but just out in the world sometimes, he just didn't have a clue. And that was so delightful. And that show for me, I was like a 19-year-old kid playing this 80-year-old Jewish man and just felt so out of my league. But watching Mark and just being with Mark, and Mark coaching me, but just watching him perform in that show just put me at ease and gave me so much more confidence than I certainly was having at the beginning of that process. It's exactly what everyone said. He was your biggest cheerleader. You always knew where you stood with the guy, and he just lit up a room. You looked forward to his class every single time, and he will be absolutely dearly missed. So here's to you, Starman.
Cheers. Thank you.
Cheers.
Jimmy. Next up, we're going to hear from Dee and Ed Marie, and then on deck we have Ton. Hi, Ton. You're going to be after Dee and Ed Marie.
Hi, everyone. What a guy, right? From the first memory that I have of Mark Brotherton is from our first day of the BFA in Voice 1. And Voice 1 was important to have a voice in. And I had none on the first day of school. And we were all sitting in a line and introducing ourselves, and a croak equivalent to like Scuttle from The Little Mermaid came out of my mouth. And the first words that Mark said to me was, "Huh, you're not gonna do well, huh?" From there, Mark Brotherton became single-handedly one of the most important professors in my life. And up through senior year, we did not get along my senior year quite a bit. And after graduation, a couple months had gone by and I could not handle not having that man in my life. So I just sent him a text and said, I'm back in town and we're getting beer and we're done fighting now because I don't know what to do next. My summer job is over and I need help. I don't know what to do with my life. And every stutter step I took after that, every lesson that I needed to learn outside of the classroom was always with a round of beers, figuring out what to do next. And when I decided to start teaching a couple of years ago, I really didn't know what to do. And my first phone call was Mark. When I didn't know what to direct that year, my first phone call was Mark. And just literally a year ago, that man was helping me prep for grad school auditions and figuring out life. And when I spoke to him a little over a week ago, it wasn't about him, even though I was asking him what he needed. If he needed anything, he said, "Nope, I want to see you over a round of beers talking about your future." And that's just who he was. And I'm sure that he is openly laughing at how much we are openly weeping at over him.
He hates this.
Probably just judging all of us with the most colorful of language, just because
what the fuck?
What the fuck? No, another round of beer. But yeah.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot to say that hasn't already been said. But we've spent a lot of time, her and I, this weekend, and a couple of other people we've reached out to and spoken to about Mark, and just about how we were really lucky So I was like, how lucky were we to have had him as a friend and as a mentor, to have been directed by him or acted alongside him, and remembering all of the lessons that he spoke on. Like, so many times in class, he would say, angry is the boring choice, or in a relationship, one will always love more than the other, so love more, don't love less. Or there were so many things, you know, and they were also applicable in life, and talking about the human condition. And I didn't understand that as a college student. I was like, you're right, as an actor, I'm angry, but I'm angry because I'm either hurt or I'm whatever. Like, as an adult, he was talking to a lot of deeper things. And yeah, we were just very lucky. And I think about him. I mean, we had beers, I don't know, before COVID. We were supposed to have beers before everything shut down, and we had beers a couple months before all
like
that.
a month before,
like a
maybe.
month before. And I think about him every time I talk about auditioning. I did a workshop on auditioning at one of my old, my old middle school. He was having alumni come in and talk about things we had learned, and the entire class period that I had was all things that I learned from Mark. I would say like 95% of the things were things that I learned from Mark, except for how I dress. And even then, I probably got that from Mark too. I think about him every time I say the word horror or the word God. And every time I hear Liquid You, and anytime somebody talks about Shakespeare, I picture Mark at 8 a.m. dancing to the intro of playing Shakespeare.
It was the best thing we could watch at 8 o'clock in the morning for Mark.
And that was, yep. So everything is said, and we all love Mark very, very much, and he would absolutely hate this, and I love
And
that
love
he
it
would
at the
hate
same
it.
time.
So I just want to toast to Mark, because to me, fair friend, you never can be old. Cheers.
Thank you both. We're gonna hear from Tan, and then after Tan, Ryan, I believe you have a special video to share, so Stephen is gonna make you a co-host in the meantime. Tan, are you ready?
Yes.
Hi.
Okay. I'm talking to Mark. This letter I wrote to him. Dear Mark, I remember the first time I came to Orlando. You picked me up from the airport and took me to a restaurant for dinner. I will never forget your smile when I met you. That sweet smile made me not nervous. You recommended a chicken dish, so I trust you. I ordered it. The dish came huge. I couldn't finish it. It's just too much. And you said, you can pack it up, the leftover, and bring to the hotel and then eat it later. I felt very awkward. I said, okay, I'm just thinking like I came for job interview. It's not just for food. So I didn't do it, even though I wanted. I thought I just don't want to do that. Since I joined the UCF, Mark and we worked together for a total of 24 shows, productions with you. As a director or as an actor, I enjoyed so much working with you, Mark. I was encouraged and inspired. Your work ethic, humor, knowledge, and talent were constantly on display. You brought certainty. You know exactly what you wanted while showing care and respect to others. I remember the conversation we had during the costume design meeting on the production Steel Magnolias. You told me that you wanted one of the actors to look more sophisticated. I got to learn that word from that then. how to speak, say sophisticated. You told me to thinking about Lenny Harris and Julia Lessingard. They always dress up very so I really paid attention to Lenny's dress and Julia Lessingard, Julia. So as I use them as a model to, design how to create a sophisticated character, clothes, they wear. I did pay, each time I think the word sophisticated, I think of Julia, really, even today. What he wears every day to get, to get inspired for my costume design. During the production of Pippin, you played King, the character. I made a goatee beard for you, for your character. You told me that you sweat a lot and I may need a strong glue to hold it on your face. I purchased a stop sweat spray for you, but it didn't work. You said, Tom, I will put it on the beard just for you to take the production photo of it. Because during the runs, I will not wear the beard. I will put another, have the beard on. I really appreciate it so much for you, for your support and letting me take photos of the beard. I consider myself as a lucky one to have a colleague like you, warm-hearted, respectful, and care for others. You were a great mentor for our students. Your guidance helped them towards success. But you're also a good mentor for colleagues. I mean, Julia talking about it. I mean, me as another example. So I never forget the moment Mark is really leaning down on the floor because I was organizing my folders on the floor. So he came, he helped me, he leaning on the floor in the old research part of that office. He helped me to organize his, like told you, Julia. She said, okay, you have to use this color. Each section, you have to have a divider page. So I have to do the totally the promotion tenure folder completely, 4 of them. I completely redid it, followed his order. I really deeply touched by it. So you touched many of us hearts. I never told you that you were one of the best models for faculty for whom I admire and follow. I use you as a model for discipline and to encourage myself. You inspired me to be a good educator and be a good colleague to others. I am sharing my secret here. I love your handwriting. Really, I love your handwriting. I actually imitated your handwriting quite a bit, but mine will never reach your level. Each time I went to work, climbing up outside the staircase of the PNC, I saw you sitting on the stairs, checking your phone messages. When I passing by, you always smile and say, hello, hello, hello. So it's what a wonderful way to start my day from there. Mark, I miss you. Your spirit will always live in my heart. Love you.
Thank you, Tan. That was beautiful. Next up, we're gonna cut over to a video that Ryan, are you all queued up to be a co-host and ready to share, Ryan Gilreath?
I think so. Am I a co-host?
Oh, you have a good mic. Goodness. Okay. I hope so. Let's double check.
You are, Ryan.
Okay, great. Thank you. So, when Mark was in the hospital, I just wanted to say this is a video that a couple of us just got together to try to cheer him up. So we tried to splice it together for tonight in his memory.
And
Yeah.
he would, and every time he would tell a story, and like I would be like, oh, he's going to go into the bit about the natural again, and I did not care because he said it with such passion every time, and he was so committed to it, and you could tell that he was passionate about it, and like it's just such an admirable quality. Like people repeating stories, other than Mark, it's not an admirable quality, but when
Right.
Mark does it, it's like I could listen to him tell the same story over and over again for the rest of my life and just be like in awe and just listen to that man tell a story.
The audition could be 8 months away, and he was talking about it and this,
Absolutely.
and he was sharing the
Yeah, but
video.
that's how I direct
Obsessed.
now. I'm the same
Yeah.
way. Like I and he can't watch the show when it opens, and I can't do it either. Like it's
Yeah.
totally like, there's no
Well,
control.
no one-
like
no
once
one
like
knows
opening
that
night
play.
comes, like he would run outside and smoke. He would not, he'd be like, "How's it going in there?" He would not be able to watch.
He would be pacing. I remember working the box office. You'd just be pacing.
I
But
understand.
no one knew that show better than Mark. Mark knew those shows better than the playwright did.
Yep.
And that's I have actually never seen that since.
Yeah. And
it's fucking amazing.
Yeah, that sense of urgency too, that sense of excitement is contagious.
And his passion for it, you were on board with it. It bled over to you too. Like, you know, when you're on board with it, a direction from Mark where you're like, hey, I don't get this, and he would be like, just take back from the part and then just go. And you're like, yep, I got it. I know what you're
that Mark taught me so much beyond the art of theater, that like do the work was, you know, that became my mantra and still is in everything I do. And I learned so much more drinking beers with him at Wackadoos, or later it was the Moat for us, than in the classroom. And it's just, yeah.
Very rare too, don't you think, to get the direction, but then also like to just feel totally comfortable in this incredibly kind and gentle environment with zero ego, where you can actually be yourself and the best of you can actually come out, because
because he's also super encouraging.
Yeah.
At the same time.
No ego. That's great.
Your ego is so perfect, Heather. Like that's so spot on.
And so supportive, you know. I think, and I remember all the things that Mark taught me as far as acting goes, and but I think probably what I took away from him the most, and what I currently do day to day, was this sense of no ego, servant leadership. I mean, there was peer, you know, there was
He
peer.
felt like he felt like us. He didn't feel like
He was a
professor.
peer.
Yeah.
We were working together.
So it was Ray and Lone Star, the younger brother, and I had no idea what I was going to do really. And he said, "You got to think simply. This is the way you think about this guy. There's good, there's very good, and there's bad." He said, that's the way he approaches everything in life. He said, if you approach that with this guy, you can do anything, any choice you want, and I won't tell you no. And that freed me up so much as someone who was so suspicious of feeling like an imposter of like my own potential. That freed me up for the rest of my life as an artist, that one moment.
I remember him saying to me, you know, when it comes to love and the challenges and the struggles and stuff that comes with love, you only have two choices. You can either love less or you can love more. And I think about that all the time. You know,
he not only taught us about acting, but he taught us a lot about life.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, in doing so, he sort of curated how we can communicate about love with each other to this day. And, you know, I think what we have, you know, a testament of us all being on a call together right now, like 20 years later, is a testament to him curating that. And
totally.
It's kind of shocking in a way to realize that at this point.
But in 1996, when he showed up, I believe, and I don't know the story for sure, but I believe he was waiting tables in Orlando.
Yes.
Doc found him.
Doc found him.
That says everything right there. That's like, You know, we got a guy who was waiting tables, came in, took that performance department by the reins and turned it into this. I mean, this is just a fraction of the lives that he impacted. That's what I've been thinking of over the past couple of days. It's like, I know how I feel about him and I know how you guys feel about him. And now you extrapolate that from Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, Florida. This man has impacted thousands and thousands and thousands of lives, and he just doesn't understand it. I don't think he gets what he means to people and what he's done to people.
I think you're right.
He always was present. It wasn't just something he taught as an actor. Like, hey, you're an actor, you need to listen to your scene partner. When you spoke to Mark, whether it was about a show or an audition or an annoying teacher or trying to get a role or what the fuck the future was going to look like, he was there and he was present and he was listening to you because he cared. And I have had very few people in my life who do that, who just listen because they care, not because they have to, not because they're being paid to, not because they're waiting for their turn to talk, but because he fucking cared. And that's something that I get to pass on to my kids. So it's not just like the hundreds of lives, thousands of lives he's affected through his teaching and the shows he's directed and the shows he's acted in, but all those people that go out and do the good things that Mark taught them, it's thousands of more people and thousands of more people. And then you start talking about generations that this one man did just because he made the choice to be present when you were speaking to him. And he cared about you.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Yes, we're all applauding. Applause. That was beautiful. And thank you for sharing that. We know that you all made that to send to Mark directly as a private thing. And thank you for sharing that with us and opening that up for all of us to see, because a lot of those words resonate with all of us, and sharing that was, I think, really important for a lot of us. Thank you. Okay, next we have Kyla Lambert, and on deck, Will Sipple. These are two current students. So we have a great list going here of people from all sorts of graduation years and throughout the years of Mark's influence. So let's hear from a couple current students. Kyla, are you there?
Hello, I'm Kyla Lambert. I wanted to speak today about Mark because I've had him for the past 4 years. And it wasn't until, I would say, COVID hit that we got super close, and I would wake up to voicemails from him and text to him. And what happened was he's in charge of the exit critique, and I'm someone who has had a lot of difficulty with finishing that assignment. And every email I got from Mark about it was full of love, and he made sure he was going to dedicate his time to me. The past couple months, I have known he's been sick, and he has constantly put it behind. No matter how much I told him to put himself first, put his health first, he would make time to Zoom with me, no matter how he felt, no matter how sick he was. He cared. And for my internship, I chose to interview him. And we had a very nice phone call. He was on his patio smoking a cigarette and enjoying his day. And I had a couple questions for him, and I didn't know that was going to be our last conversation. It was 2 weeks before we heard about him being in the hospital. I didn't know that was going to be the last time I talked to him. But I wanted to share some of the quotes and comments that he had, because he wanted, even though I interviewed him about him, he only had things to say about his students. And some questions I asked him was about his life as an educator. And some advice he said he wished he could share with everyone is that you have more time than you think, and that you have so much time. And he said he loved every moment of his life. He said, learn as much as you can about the business, keep acting, and put in the work, because no matter where you end up, the fact that you put in the work will be the most that you're proud about. I asked him if he could speak to himself, his younger self, what would he say to himself? And he said he would tell himself that everyone has talent and everyone can do the work and everyone has the ability. He said he wishes he knew how much he could believe and how much he has learned from his students. I said if his younger self could speak to him now, what do you think he would say? And he said he would be most proud that he stuck with it and he loved his craft from the beginning to the end. And that he dedicated his life to what he loved most. I asked him what the pandemic had done to him and what he missed the most. And he said he missed being in the classroom and seeing his people work. He missed the students. He missed communicating. He missed being able to touch them and be closer than 6 feet. And he misses the company of others and watching what they could bring to life and being amazed by what he never knew we could do. I didn't realize that phone call was going to be so short. I didn't realize he would have all his answers. And even though I felt bad, because we all know he was never not one to take his sick days. And we always knew him to just be a regular thing. I didn't know how sick he was. Even though we never got to finish the paper, I can say I'm not upset about that. But I can say I'm glad I got to speak to him before he went and that I have his voicemail still on my phone. And I can hear him say my name with so much love and care. A man who learned my name and wanted to know how to say it right because he wanted to make me feel loved. And I just want you all to know that he died loving you all very much. He left knowing he was loved, and he left knowing his work will be carried on. And thank you guys for letting me speak.
Thank you, Kyla. You did good. You did very well. It's hard. It's hard to breathe through it. You did great. Next, we have Will Sipple, and on deck will be Jarrett Poor.
Hi. I didn't prepare remarks, so forgive me if I ramble. Mark was and is my hero. From very early in my time here, I said, yeah, that's who I want to be when I'm 50. I just want to I really appreciate seeing all these people who've known Mark for years and years longer than I have. I'm a junior at UCF. And it's amazing that he's had the same impact and the same beliefs that I can listen to a story someone told that he did 15 years ago and go, yep, he said the same thing to me. So I just want to share a couple of situations I had with Mark over the last 3 years. First is after he left us. We closed Scaramuccia and Naxos yesterday. And we set up that after the show, Peyton Sohn would say some nice words about Mark and we would dedicate the show to him. And I'd been talking with some friends about, even though he was a genius and a remarkable man, Mark hated when people told him how great he was and how humble he was. And Peyton said that and we were all crying and we were all leaving. Sammy Pontello turned to me and said, you know, Mark's up there somewhere going, well, that was a fucking bummer. So I met Mark when I had just come to school in 2018. And I had, in truth, no like real good theater experience. And I was very afraid and very nervous of what college would be like. So the first time I actually interacted with him was the callback directly before classes started. And there was a group amassed of people who've been there for years talking amongst each other. And I took a seat far away and said, I will wait for my time at this audition. I don't know how I got, and I will go on not being cast. And Mark noticed me sitting there and pulled his way from the crowd and went, Will, yes, I remember your audition. It was really cool. Excited to see what you do in this callback. come over here. And he pulled me into the group and got me involved. And what he did with that show, which was 2018's Of Mice and Men, is he said he'd always wanted to do a show where he got to have a group of understudies go on for a scheduled show, because he thought they were just as talented and deserving as the main cast. And he said, well, finally, a show where everyone's wearing overalls and I don't have to bug the costume department to make something nice. And he gave about half of my freshman class an opportunity to perform right at the beginning of our career. And around that time, my friend Chris Hancock in my class was doing a monologue for us that was about a teacher who was very important to that character. And there's a line in it that reads, he told me I was good before I was good. And I've always talked about that is the thesis of my feelings about Mark, that if ever, I only recently am deserving of any praise for what I've done. And Mark, from the very beginning, when I was a scared little kid, has always believed in me. And he's believed in everyone who stepped in his classroom, even if they didn't believe in themselves. The last time I saw Mark in person, to my knowledge, I may have seen him in class afterwards, but there wasn't anything special happening there. He said, Will, I need to go to the airport for KCACTF. And I don't drive, or at least not that far. And I don't want to pay an Uber driver. I would rather hang out with one of my students. So he paid me $50 to drive him to and from the airport to go to KCACTF. And this was some 8 months before he was supposed to be doing Much Ado About Nothing. And he came in and wanted only to talk about that show and his ideas for how it would be done, even though come December of 2020, he would be completely wrong about how it would be done. And the remarkable thing about him is he was an accomplished person. He went out doing everything he wanted to do, but he was always excited to work and always excited to learn something new, even when he was supposed to be the teacher. And even as late 2020 on and we all hated Zoom, he was like, this is kind of cool. We can make Shakespeare work in this. Up until the very end. He was teaching 2 classes this semester, and I was in one of them. And the last time he taught that class, I think, was Thursday, 1 week before he passed. And he did, in fact, where he usually taught his class smoking on his back porch, he did teach that one lying down in bed. And he was a little slower than usual. His speech was slurred. His usual 10-minute smoke break was a 15-minute break to pee, which he thought was very funny. And I brought in a sonnet that day that he said, I used to think this sonnet was really simple and kind of dumb. But he said he stayed up the night before reading everybody's work and what they were going to do to get ready. And myself and Jessica Lang's work that he was doing, he said, these 2 were kind of cool because I didn't really get them, but I really tried to learn something new. And he said, I think I have some new ideas for what these might mean and ways to play them that are not from a place of hate, but from a place of loving someone so much that you hate to see them go. I don't have a strong ending. I miss Mark. He was my teacher and he was my friend. And I think he accomplished everything he needed to. He left this world with his arc complete. I'm not sad that he's gone, really. I think whatever he's off doing in his next world of magic is much more interesting than this lame planet we live on. I think that the grief that we're sharing is in that so many of us loved this man and wanted more time with him. And I really wish that I could have shared a beer with him since I turned 21 during COVID. But I miss him. I love him. And thank you, everybody, for being here to share.
Thank you, Will. Next up will be Jarrett Poor. I just want to let you all know we have 20 people who want to speak before 9:30. So I'm going to be sending you gentle reminders in the chat of a 30-second warning. I'm just going to simply use my raised hand feature as a visual notification that you should come to a close. We want to give everybody a chance to close with respect. So next up is Jarrett Poor, and on deck is Parker Slava. Jarrett?
Well, that's perfect because the first words Mark Brotherton ever spoke to me was, "What the fuck is that?" and "Get out of here," because I was in a dialect session for Arcadia, and I guess I had impressed him with my dialect. But I was so scared because I thought he actually wanted me to get the fuck out of there. But I'll keep it very brief. I've been searching around papers. You know, the man loved to give out papers. He didn't do digital anything. I've got copies of monologues for days. I even have papers from Kate with coffee stains on it still and all that. But I'll keep it really brief. There was a monologue from a playwright that he always pushed on me, Patty Chayefsky. And I've been reading his works for the past couple of days, and I feel like I know Mark a lot better now. But the one monologue he always had me do for everything, KCACTF, auditions, classes, whatever, was from a movie named Marty. And I have a bunch of notes on it, but the one note at the bottom that I wrote down specifically because it was Mark that said it was, "Always choose love. It's easy to choose anything else, but to love and to love hard is the strongest choice." And I try to put that into everything I do. And with that being said, who the fuck am I? Get out of here. Love you, Mark.
Thank you, Jarrett. Jarrett made it under the 2-minute time, so you get the award for the stage manager not having to even call thank you. That was awesome. Thank you, Jarrett. That was wonderful. Parker is next, followed by Ryan Koch.
Hi, everyone. This is rough for all of us. I feel like in order to get through this in 2 minutes, I'm gonna have to talk like Mark and somehow kind of speak really fast to get my point across, but I'll do it with love. Actually, I'm gonna go outside and have a cigarette and act like Mark and just really speak eloquently and refined. And I'm looking at you all because I feel like that single view is weird to look at myself talking. I have 2 quotes here from Alan Bennett's The History Boys, which is a play I saw early in life, and it spoke words to me, but only until I had class with Mark did it become real. Before I do that, shout out to all the classes, class of 22, and everyone whose experiences with him now maybe seem incomplete or unfulfilled. But know that no matter how much time you had with him, you are way more ever so complete for having that time with them. And I think that's something that all of us share with him. He was my first acting teacher, which then he had to go help his mom, I believe, which was then replaced by Tad Ingram. And they both had similar things to say. And I was like, these crazy people. And then I realized, wait, they're brilliant, crazy people. And all of us in our own sense are crazy people. And to own that and to cherish that is something I will never take for granted ever again. And so thank you for giving me that. This first quote is something I see Mark in all the time. It's the best moments in reading are when you come across something, a thought, a feeling, a way of looking at things that you'd thought special, particular to you. And here it is set down by someone else, a person you've never met, maybe even someone long dead. And it's as if a hand has come out and taken yours. And every project I work on moving forward From then on, I see Mark, and no matter who the author was, I imagine Mark going, up, let me read it. Okay, Parker, here's what we do. And the second quote is something I think for all of us teachers moving forward, all of us actors who tell stories, who try to make the world a better place, something that Mark did every second of every day, no matter who you were in the hallway for a split second or beers for hours afterwards. To all you teachers out there who are watching this, thank you. Pass the parcel. That's sometimes all you can do. Take it, feel it, and pass it on. Not for me, not for you, but for someone, somewhere, one day. Pass it on. That's the game I want you to learn. Pass it on. So thank you, Mark. I think you've done a damn good job at doing that.
Thank you, Parker. Next up is Ryan, and on deck is Eric Uloa.
Hi, everyone. Where to begin with Mark, but I'm just going to get into it because I know I'm limited on time. But whenever I think of Mark, I think of him as just like everyone's personal cheerleader, like my own little personal cheerleader, just like on my shoulder, just like go, go, go. And the reason, like one of the big reasons that I am of that mindset is because when he directed me in Gentleman's Guide, and that was like one of my dream shows and one of my dream roles. And during one of our rehearsals, it was just me, Esmeralda, and Carissa. It was the three of us, and he was just trying to figure out what he was going to do with the big show-stopping "I've decided to marry you" number. And he was like, I don't know. I keep looking at it, and I think we have to copy the Broadway. So he puts it up on the screen, and he's like, all right, just figure it out. And we just stumble our way blindly through it. And at the end of it, he just looks at us in awe and just goes, that was fucking amazing. And to think that we would feel so insecure and lost during that process, just for him to just be there at the end, to be like, to just give us this big bear hug of support and praise is just what really does it for me when I think about Mark. And thinking about him and his life and how many people he's touched really eases a lot of my anxieties about life and about death, mortality, and all of that. Because I can just look at him and see how content he was with everything that's happened. And that really means a lot to me. And I hope to even capture even a little bit of the magic he captured in his life. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Next up, we have Eric, and on deck is Abby Jaros.
Hi, everyone. It's amazing to see so many of your faces. It really, like, the last couple days has been. I realize that social media is the worst place to be during these things because it's a constant reminder of such a sadness, and something you didn't think was going to knock down so many points within you. And so the last 2 days, I've not logged into anything. And logging onto this was my first interaction kind of with social media. And it was just a heart leap after heart leap at seeing your faces. And there are so many of you I don't know, which means that I will be 40 by the end of this year. So that's but it's so amazing to watch the continuity of what we all received at UCF way back then when things were called wackadoos. There was oh, sorry, this thing just flipped on me. Am I still on here? Oh, there we go. Sorry, this whole thing just flipped around here. There's my whole UCF journey started with Mark by the simple fact that I was at my audition and had a few of the schools I auditioned to, but that night I saw Anything Goes. And after I saw it, that was it. I was like, I need to be here where they make this and where they do this. This is what I need to, this is what I need to be a part of. So of course it was an instant yes right away. My very first few days of school, I had, I remember Mark from my audition. I remember he directed the show there. I remember I somehow got corralled into Daniel Robbins, and I forget who it was, blurry college memories. Mark came up to us and invited them to lunch, and I kind of became a part of it, which when you're a freshman, that is the coolest thing possible. And instantly I was so intrigued because I had never met somebody that talked faster than I did, or brain spun faster than I did. So I was just sitting there at, I think it was Wackadoos then, it could have been Locos, I'm not sure what it was. Whatever had the copyright infringement had to change. And I sat in amazement over Coors Light and a chicken sandwich at this man who spoke so fast and thought so fast, but spun out such interesting knowledge. I started theater very, very late in my life. I started theater when I was 17 years old. College, to go to school for theater was a last minute decision, and something that, so I was literally cutting my teeth in this for the first time with my classmates who I thought of as brothers and sisters, with my professors who to me became parents, people that I looked up to, people that I thought they are here to, I am here to learn from them. I'm here to get to, all I can from them and give them as much as I can. And, Mark, my freshman year, cast me in Anything Goes, and I still don't know, not Anything Goes, sorry, Crazy for You. And I still could not figure it out because I did not know how to tap at all. And I just went in there, did a horrible combination, but I bought a Hawaiian shirt at the Goodwill so I would stand out and just smile a lot. And he took a chance on the guy that really wanted to learn, that really had a passion for this and said, I don't know what I'm doing, but please hold my hand and we'll do it together. My specialty in my degree was musical theater, so I didn't have Mark as a teacher of mine. Our paths, didn't cross as much as that. But my senior year, he had, through Lanny, she, brought up, I think you might like the other side of things in directing, or, the way you are in directing class. Have you talked to Mark about the advanced directing class? Something I never thought of. And Mark, I went to have lunch with him and he brought me into it. And I was in the class, and that was, as I said, like, that was the seed of literally what I do for my life now. He taught me what happened on the other side of the proscenium. He taught me that, to see a new perspective, to see the full vision, to understand how to tell stories in a different way. All of it. And these last 2 days sitting back and just thinking about it and not logging into things and reading things, it's been so much clearer that so much of it is Mark. So much of everything. The fact that, Mark was very clear about that you could be a great artist and not be a dick, and just be a good person and be a kind person and spread kindness and care about people, and know, like he said, and we said in the chat thing, it's called a play, not a serious, which I love and I use all the time. When it stops being fun, why are you doing it? And, my career truly, and it compounds more every minute I've been sitting here, has so much to do with Mark. And I had not been back in 14 years. And when I came back in 2018 to see the play down there, I desperately searched for Mark. Like, I went through the entire building. which I didn't know the new building existed. I was over Research Park. I went over the new building. And when the whole top floor, the whole bottom floor, the building next door could not find Mark, heard he was working on the de-icing, went to the theater, could not find Mark for days. And my last day there, I was leaving the back of the theater. I thought, well, shit, I'm not going to see Mark. He's literally the one person I was not going to see. And I was walking around the back. I went out the back loading dock and walked around, and out pops Mark for a cigarette break. And I remember, and I wrote in this thing that he just turned and like, in that way Mark gets when he's so proud of you, that glimmer in his eye and that smile, and he just went, "You're published." And like he just, it was just those, that was everything, Of course, I'm asking him questions about himself in the show. He wouldn't answer a single one, as he always did. He loved all of us so much. He loves all of us so much, and I think in the what we've learned tonight in this, and are keeping on, and we keep learning, is that we have Mark, as only artists can. Mark is immortal in a way. He lives in all of us, in everything we do, not just in our art and how we create, and how we perform, how we write, but in the way we are as humans, the way our souls work. We have Mark in it. We have no choice. So it's pretty beautiful to know like he will live forever. Mark will always be there. It's so apparent how everyone talks. You can't help it. He's a part of you forever. So thank you all. Thank you, Mark. I went over my 2 minutes. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Thank you, Eric. It's good to see you and good to hear your voice. Next up, we have Abby Jaros. On deck, we have Colton Butcher and then Courtney Moores.
How magnificent it is to have known someone so great and therefore to experience such a great loss. That's what I just have to keep telling myself these past few days. I sit here in denial. Hello, this is Ernie. I sit here in denial so much about this. Crazy enough, the day I found out Mark was going on hospice, I actually texted him that morning because I was on the phone with my mom and he came up in conversation. And I said, I remember complaining about being in biology class in front of Mark once. And he looked at me, he goes, we don't need any more dumb actors. And that comes up so often and it's so funny. And so so much has been said on this age of social media, which is so beautiful. And I have to say, a lot of my actor friends up here in New York have seen so many beautiful things about Mark that he still lives on. He still is reaching so many people he didn't even personally know. And I think there's so many beautiful things to say about everything. Obviously, I second, third, and fourth everything everyone said. But he has left such a footprint on this earth that will be here forever. And to me, I think a lot of us who are not in the UCF area, this was very sudden. Mark and I talked many times a year, but we hadn't talked in a few months, which is why I wanted to check in with him. And so I will say, unfortunately, last year, we also lost a colleague, Yanni, and it was very sudden. And Mark and I played phone tag around that time. He was looking for information on Yanni at the time. And, I'm so glad we played phone tag because I have this beautiful voicemail from him. And it was reiterating something we had said to each other. And he said, you're right, Abby. We must tell each other that we love each other each and every day. So every text I've gotten from him, he signs off, I love you today and every day of your life. And I just want to sit here and say to all 235 of us who are here, I love you today and every day of your life. And Mark led with love. And we are so lucky to have experienced that. So I love you all today and every day of your lives.
Thank you so much, Abby. Next is Colton Butcher, then Courtney Moores, and then Vandy Wood.
Hi, everyone. This has been really, really, really fucking hard. Mark was a great teacher. I think we all know that. But he was such a good friend for me. I wanted to leave my first year. I didn't feel like I belonged. I felt so much less than everyone else. I was overwhelmed by the talent I saw around me, and I did not feel like I had anything to offer. And I told teachers that I was thinking of leaving, and they all were like, "Well, you should rethink about it. It's a good training. You're good. You're gonna be okay." But he's the only one that he just told me to meet at fucking Applebee's. And I thought it was crazy. It seemed like a weird thing for a teacher to do, and he sat me there and just went over how the program couldn't lose me, which was I didn't even think about it that way. And from that moment on, I knew he was just going to be such a good teacher, but he went on to be such a great, amazing friend. What's been really wonderful and something that has kept me positive in all of this is seeing everyone's thoughts about him and how much that he affected them, because I got to hear the stories from his end. Like Abby, I got to hear everything about rehearsals for KISS, everything. And I always wondered how much the students knew he loved them. Because I don't know if he ever said that. I don't know how much he ever told them, you know? So seeing everyone talk about that and address that, it's been pretty amazing. Sorry. One of the things throughout the years that just has helped me going is just his support in everything, even if it was something I didn't care about, even if it was something I played off as no big deal. He was always like, "No, but you fucking did it. But you did it. Doesn't matter how small, it doesn't matter how much you don't care about it, you did it, and that's what matters." On top of also, he was a stubborn bastard. One of my favorite stories, another one that I love about him, that side of him is I took him to the hospital. This was back in 2018, and it was supposed to be pretty quick, but it got to be pretty long. It was taking up the whole day, and he felt really bad about it. And right at the end, he was like, "Hey, you know, the way that we get out of here is if I pee in this jar. That's all I gotta do. They're just waiting for me to pee in this jar. So why don't you go to the bathroom, take the jar with you, and you fill it up and bring it back, and then I'll wait a couple minutes, and then I'll go to the bathroom with the jar and like hide it, and come back and say, hey, look, I filled it up. We can go." I said, "No, I don't think that's how that works." And he's like, no, we're getting out of here and you got to do it. And I said, "No, Mark, I think you got to, I don't think I can do that. They might know." And he's like, "No, you got to do it." We thought about that for a while, whether or not I should pee in his pee jar for him. But instead we ended up watching short films. Anyway, I love him dearly. This is the first big loss that I've ever had in my life, and it is so hard to fucking deal with. But it makes it easier knowing that everyone else is loving him, and I have this incredible support group that I wouldn't have if he didn't take me to Applebee's back in 2013. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Colton. Okay, we have a few more speakers from the list. We're going to hear from Courtney Moores and Vandy Wood, and we're going to close out our time as a group together with Kate Ingram. But the breakout rooms, I'll talk about the breakout room process and which ones are available and how that'll all go, and those will be open for another hour. So without further ado, let's hear from Courtney Moores.
Oh, Amanda.
Ah, you're welcome, Courtney.
I love you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to keep this short, knowing that Vandy and Kate are following me because, God, I need to hear from them. Man, Mark was a huge force in my life, as he was in so many. And this has been really cathartic tonight to hear all of you and feel like I know all of you. I'll share a few memories I have. I think Mike Petty's on this call. In my freshman year, we were partners for ACTF, and we didn't have cars, so we rode our bikes to rehearsal with Mark in the mornings for our scenes, and he'd call us at like 8 a.m. because it was the only time we could all rehearse, because he taught all day, we were in class all day, then rehearsal at night. So Petty and I would pull up to the trailer on our bikes, and Mark would laugh at us and call us nerds. But, it's like we were there at 8 a.m. to do the work. That's who Mark was. That's what he instilled in us. He was so precise and passionate in his work, and he passed that on to all of us. And then my sophomore year, he directed me in Noises Off, and he couldn't pick an Irene Ryan nominee. He couldn't do it. That's who Mark was. He loved the whole cast. He was never going to pick somebody. So he put our names in a hat, and he pulled my name out of the hat. Or somebody pulled my name out of the hat. I don't know. And then I went on and I freaking won the thing in DC because he pulled my name out of a hat and coached me to win. It had so little to do with me, and it had so much to do with Mark. And everyone talks about him, smoking. He couldn't watch the shows. He told me at the Kennedy Center, I don't think I'm going to watch you. I'll be in the doorway. I'll be in the back. I'll be out in the lobby, but I don't think I can watch. And he's the reason. He's the reason for all of it. My 21st birthday was brought to me by Doc C and Mark Brotherton. So needless to say, I don't remember my 21st birthday. And, I kept in touch with Mark as much as I could when I left UCF. What else is there to say? We love him so much. Cheers to Mark, to having fun, to laughter, to bad beer with good friends, to the work, and to the love he bestowed upon us all. Cheers. Love you guys.
Thanks, Courtney. Love you. She's like right up the road from me, so I'm like, oh, I can just throw this cord to you. Vandy.
All righty. So, Courtney, wow, I freaking miss you a lot. Damn. I think I saw you last in a crazy space in North Carolina. So I will start with saying that I first saw, well, actually, I need to start with first saying that, Doc, damn, it's good to see your face. And I have seen so many faces tonight that I haven't seen in a very long time that I really miss a lot. And you guys give me a lot of energy, and it's crazy. This is a crazy space to be in. And I think Mark would appreciate that. Like this is our last 20 years. But I want to say something, and I want to take it back later, that I had the best relation. Well, I met Mark I knew Mark when he was 17, when I was 17. He was at SUNY Purchase with me. we didn't know each other, but I knew of him. We overlapped by a short, like year and a half. He was older. But I noticed him, and we spent a lot of time smoking and drinking, talking about our time at Purchase. And after we reunited at UCF many years later. But there's something about, like, when I see the pictures when he's a kid, like I remember that Mark. And I also remember this Mark. And I always remember that the light in his eyes and the love in his heart were always the thing that touched me so much. And the other thing I will say is that because I was a smoker and a drinker, and this is the thing I'm going to take back later, Doc and Mark and I spent a lot of time between things, enjoying each other and really getting to know each other. And the way I'm going to take it back is I'm going to say that I finally quit smoking after smoking for most of my life. And I don't know yet how to replace what that community is, because that's how I got to know Mark so well. And you guys talk about drinking and smoking with Mark, or like, it's not about that. It's not about the drinking and the smoking. It's about you're creating community, and you don't need that thing. But what we need is a reason to do that. And Doc, I freaking love seeing your face. I'm weeping every moment. It just seeing you on my screen. I need to see you in person as soon as I can. But I don't know, like, I would like to just put out that question to everyone. Like, what is the way that we can commune without drinking and smoking? And I'm not saying we shouldn't do either. I'm just saying there's something else there that we're missing. Like, they're just stepping outside and having a chat. Like, what can we do that's not tied to the thing that used to make us come together? And I think, like, I spent huge amounts of time remembering Purchase with Mark and talking about shows with Mark and talking with Doc and Mark. I actually think that our between things time was like the highlight of my space at UCF. I think we spent hours and hours and hours together, just standing outside, communing with us and students, or in a bar with students. But we don't really need the alcohol or the cigarettes to create community. So I'm just loving this space. Like, we did it without either of those things. I mean, I know I'm drinking. I'm having a cocktail for Mark, but I also know that I could not have a cocktail and still be here supporting Mark. So I love you all. I hope I didn't go too far over my time.
And I love you, Andy.
Damn, I love Mark.
Thank you, Andy. That was an excellent message, and it's a great point. How do we continue to connect in ways that are safe and healthy? And I think that's something we've all gotten a chance to ponder in this time. Thanks, Vandy. Love you. Miss you.
I miss you too.
Y'all.
All of you.
It's time for Kate Ingram. time for Kate.
Hi, am I on?
You are on.
The mic is hot, Kate.
Okay, thank you. Oh gosh,
You are hot, Kate.
I am so moved by all of you, hearing all of you, seeing all of you. And Vandy, here's something that maybe could substitute for alcohol and cigarettes. Maybe it could be the IPA. It would be like International Phonetic Alphabet and pronunciations. I mean, that would be really something to chat about, you know. And then you could just take a pencil and think about it and write things down.
I'm game, Kate.
Okay.
Train me.
And you know, I love seeing Doc too, but you know, Doc has these stories, and I have mine. Doc thinks he hired me, but really Mark did. My story is that I came in 2001, and somebody sent me to Mark's office, and we talked about my background, and then he said, well, you should probably meet the chair. And so he took me in, and I said, hi, hello. I didn't say Doc then, it was Dr. C, but and then but really Mark hired me and told Doc to hire me. So I really do have a lot to owe Mark. I'm just gonna, if you don't mind, I promise I'm gonna be short, but I have so much history. I gotta read you this list of shows that we did together, right? Started with Look Homeward Angel, with Doc and with so many of you students. That was like my welcome to the department. It was beautiful, okay? We did 5th of July, Gin Game, Steel Magnolias, The Visit, Cabaret, Leading Ladies, Doubt. I'm just saying this in case we worked together. It was Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf? Oh my gosh, here's a story. Okay, so Mark and I, you know, we love words. That was our bond. We loved words. And we had 2 nights to go with Virginia Woolf, and he's backstage with me, and we would run lines all the time because, oh my God, so many words. And he goes, okay, 2 more. And I said, no, 6. And he goes, what, have we been extended? I said, no, 2 times 3 acts. We've got 3 acts in every show. And we just laughed because there were so many words. Also, Good Boys and True, Spring Awakening, Boeing, Foreigner, Patent Leather Shoes, Reflecting Up, and then I directed him in Merry Wives and was Miss Alliance, and oh God, was he fun to direct too. But I think so many of you have reached out to me. I've loved all the emails and texts that I've gotten because you know how close I was to Mark. And Taddy too, but I just wanted to close with, to me, the most appropriate Shakespeare lines to say farewell. And he would, maybe he was his own kind of that paradoxical character, right? Hamlet. And this was the farewell to Hamlet. Now cracks a noble heart. Good night, sweet prince, and flights of angels sing thee to thy rest. We will never forget you. And I love you all for loving Mark.
Thanks, Kate. Thank you, Kate. I love you so much. Tad, the ultimate hype man. We love you both.